From the palatial Mars Studio in the heart of San Francisco, a Kiff and Ang production. It's the Kiff and Ang Podcast. Online at kiffandang.com. Sign up to be a Patreon so they can start paying me. Kiff and Ang.
Welcome to the Kiff and Ang Podcast. And this series, we're talking about faith, religion, and spirituality in San Francisco. And today, we're going to be talking about something very close to my co-host Ang's heart, Glide Memorial Church. Hello. Hi, Ang. How are you?
Hi. It's not only close to my heart, it's literally around the corner. So,
And you use Glide all the time, too. It's part of how you help your neighborhood, I guess.
I do. There's a lot of social services that Glide has to offer. And although I am not a Christian, I have been a practicing Buddhist since 1988. Glide Memorial, I couldn't imagine the Tenderloin without them sincerely.
My computer was saying that Glide Memorial Church is also close to its heart. And that's how accepting they are. They even accept my non-human friends.
Oh, yeah.
Bing, it said. I do want to give a big shout out to everybody who's liked and subscribed. The show is just really coming along. And I was posting on one of my social medias today about how just tickled I was to see all the views and stuff. So we appreciate it. If you are enjoying the show, just make sure and just like and subscribe. We're on all the podcast outlets. If you want to watch us, we're on the YouTubes and Instagram TV. And
yes. I forgot Scrappy Cat. She's a commenting. Oh, I love her. I'll answer her every time. Scrappy Cat, you rock. I forgot.
She also likes to send me the best conspiracy theory videos at 2 a.m. But that's a rabbit hole we don't have to go down today.
We've been there and back.
We've been there and back. So today we are talking about one of the most visibly iconic churches, I think in any way, in San Francisco. And it's not maybe because its architecture is so beautiful. It's not because it hosts fancy rock stars at its congregation. It's because of, I don't know, to me, they're down in it, just like Jesus, the Jesus I learned about anyway, would have been. And we're talking about Glide Memorial Church. They're a beacon in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, and they've been there since 1930. And originally, were a pretty conservative Methodist church. They did begin to change right around the 60s with the whole Summer of Love movement. The hippie movement came in, and I'm assuming they kind of, saw what was happening on the ground and decided to work their way up. Now,
they led the way.
They sure did. Becoming well-known as one of the most liberal churches in the entire United States. And I'm sure it gets a lot of flack for that. They serve the very diverse community of the Tenderloin. And Ange, how diverse is that Tenderloin community you're in?
I am telling you, on a daily basis, I see Glide Memorial Church offering medical services, breakfast and lunch. I see them offering clothing, rental and housing assistance. The list goes on, including the harm reduction that they operate that's just around the corner from the main entrance. They offer clean needles there. They provide Narcan, and I don't know if our viewers are aware of what Narcan is and what the harm reduction is.
What is Narcan?
Narcan,
tell us, everybody.
Narcan can be given either through the nose, nasally, or through a needle in the muscle. Mm-hmm. And what it does, it will hopefully instantly bring an opiate or OD overdose right back to breathing. Not constantly awake, not instantly awake like Pulp Fiction kind of thing, but just the breathing begins to happen in the body. And right now, we're watching this during we're filming this during a worldwide pandemic. And in the United States and in the Tenderloin, fentanyl poisoning has become very, very frequent.
There's a cynical part of me that says, and I'm a person in recovery. And it's the very cynical part of me that says, you know what I mean? You can't save everybody. You know, after the third Narcan dose that day, what are you going to do? But then the other part of me says, Well, if I was a church, you can't not look at that. To me, from what I know about Christianity anyway, is that like you're down washing the feet of the lepers, right? I feel like the Narcan thing is like that equivalent. Does that make sense?
It does. Excuse
By the
me.
way, thank you for having Narcan on supply. And I don't know how many people who've OD'd that you've come out and woke up and brought back to the world. Thank you.
There's been a total of 4 since I've
Wow.
lived here, and 2 were in the last 2 months.
How
So,
traumatic. Was that traumatic
and
for you to go through that?
it is for the first 24 to 48 hours, but I make sure that I talk about it and I
Mhm.
share it a lot,
Good.
and I make my visit down to glide harm reduction, and it's really healthy for me to share what happened to the Narcan and why I need to replenish it, and they make note of it. They also offered an example of what a safe injection site would look like when that was originally on the ballot and Gavin Newsom shot it down as governor.
Yeah.
But that's coming back. That's going to happen.
Every day I would go into San Francisco, and I haven't been because of the crisis. You know, I've been working from home. But every day I would go in and I would see the homeless there. And all you could do was like, some days all you could do for me anyway is just pray. But what Glide is doing isn't prayer, it's action. And for my spiritual like center, action is the most important thing. Philanthropist and Methodist Lizzie Glide founded the church at the corner of Ellis and Taylor. She found the Glide Foundation as a memorial to her husband, H.L. Glide from Sacramento. And construction of the actual structure, the church itself, was completed, it took like 2 years. It was involved in the temperance movement at the time, which was actually a real feminist movement too, if you look into it. And they purchased the Hotel California 2 blocks away to operate as a temperance hotel for many decades.
Which is sober living in today's speak.
And is real important for a lot of people. Hopefully they found sobriety. They championed the women's movement by funding the construction of an all-female Christian dormitory at UC Berkeley. That's awesome.
I
That
know.
opened the doors for so many women to get that world-class UC Berkeley education.
Absolutely.
And then a boarding house for young working Christian women. And at the time, I think you were required to be Christian. I think that was just, you were Jewish or Christian.
Yeah,
right?
that was, or, we're converting you. This is,
Yes.
we believe you are going to be a Christian.
Well, and I mean, if that's Glide's purpose at the end of the day by offering a bunch of Narcan.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was.
the same thing with
But it's not now. It's not now.
Salvation Army started the same way.
Salvation Army operates very different, but
very differently. Salvation Army and Glide are not the same. But I was just thinking the beginnings of it was let's get on the ground and help the worst of the people. That's the best way to convert.
They both have that in common.
Yes.
But what Glide and Salvation Army do not have in common, and definitely what happened in 1963 when Reverend Cecil Williams came on board, was the focus on, to get this, you must listen to me explain Christianity.
Now,
the point I was trying to make is that when Reverend Cecil Williams came on board, there was no tit for tat that you always received when receiving something given to you by a lot of the religious organizations. You did not have to sit and listen to a mass or anybody preach in order to get breakfast. You didn't even have to say a prayer to have breakfast. You don't have to talk about God a single time the minute you walk through Glide's doors. I'm a Buddhist, full-fledged Buddhist. I have a Buddhist altar in my home and say prayers on a daily basis, but I will not praise Glide, that's for sure. And Cecil Williams, he guided Glide Memorial into the new era of serving the community, really serving the community within it was in. This included the truly marginalized people, the trans, the gays, the addicts, the people of the night. I sometimes call them creepy crawlies, but addicts that can't sleep through the evening.
Sure.
The doors were always open.
My commute was at night, and I'll tell you right now, on BART anyway, nighttime always felt a little safer than the day. During the daytime, I always felt like the creepy crawlies would come onto BART and sort of sleep there. Does that make sense? Like
That does make
afternoon?
sense. That does make
Yeah.
sense because they have to rest somewhere.
And I say creepy crawlies, but to be honest,
That's
some
just
of my good friends are creepy crawlies. So that's hard to
creepy
say. Yeah.
crawlies is what's caused by the drug that they're addicted
Yes.
to. It's not
Thank
the
you.
person that they
Thank you.
are.
Thank you. Thank
Let's
you.
define that. So it was also known that Reverend Williams worked really closely with other big church leaders in San Francisco, and they would band together and begin to show up at political rallies and begin to show up to vote, and really sort of you might say gain a lot of political power. And it's worth mentioning that two of the preachers that he banded together with were Carlton Goodlett and Jim Jones of People's Temple. So, hey, Jim Jones had he had a great reputation at the time. He had true believers, true followers. He had a congregation that numbered more than 500 people in San Francisco. And if Jim Jones People's Temple had that, imagine what Glide had. I mean, we're talking, you could pull out 1,000, 1,500 people at a rally and just say, this is the guy we're behind. That's that.
Absolutely.
So giving power to numbers. But it's a lot like today. You know, the numbers are banding together. These organizations that we see protesting out on the streets today are not normally organizations that we saw communicating with each other before.
Like, what do you mean?
Black Lives Matter, and perhaps the people that are protesting our president.
Okay. All right.
You know, they found common ground, and their protests are combined to create larger numbers to speak a bigger message.
I think that's a little different than, but you know what? We're not going to go into that, Ange. We're just
Cut
going to
that out too.
Oh, I don't mind if you leave it in at all. I just didn't want to argue the other side of it on our podcast.com because that's a whole rabbit hole, my friend, that we could go into. In fact, maybe we'll do one of those for the secret show.
I was going to say, I think at election time, you need to come out on a secret show.
Come out of the closet?
Yeah.
As a wick.
Both? I don't know.
Which? I don't know.
We could do Wiccan in October.
Look, since the 1960s, Glide has been a powerful and primary source for many of the street and home people in the Tenderloin. And in addition to serving 3 meals a day, and that's, okay, I'm not doing math. Angela wrote it down for me. 750,000 meals a year. Glide operates another 85 social service programs, and these programs are amazing. Housing assistance, medical clinics, childcare, after-school programs. They've got shelter options for people that's, abused women who need help, or just kids who are coming into San Francisco and need a home. Transitional housing. If you're coming from jail and you need to rehabilitate, if you're a drug addict and you need to, get on with your life. Harm reduction, HIV testing. Angela, this is a really long list.
I told you, it's not even 85. I didn't do the whole 85.
It's also worth mentioning, they have got and I didn't know this either until we started talking about this, a world-class choir at Glide Memorial. They've got 100 voices. And have you seen them? Have you ever seen the Glide choir before?
I have heard them. There is standing room only when the choir is in town. They often go on tour. They have several albums or CDs, I guess the kids call them today.
They don't call them CDs.
I don't know.
Angela,
playlists. Okay, yeah, you're right. I totally dated and then redated myself. So they have several playlists available, I'm sure, on iTunes. Yeah. Okay.
Just where our podcast is. You can find us on iTunes.
Apple Podcast. But I have walked by when the choir is playing, and it is foot stomping, hand clapping, and you can't help but look at the sky.
We've been talking a lot of nice things, Angela, but every church has a dirty secret. So lay it on us. You're far more PC than I am. Lay it on us.
Glide has not been without its controversy. So from the time Reverend Cecil Williams arrived on the scenes and started to change things, known as the best pulpit in Northern California, probably for these groundbreaking reasons. And this is really, we mentioned Methodist Church and Glide Memorial Church. And I certainly think that there is a reason now that there's a difference. And these are probably a few of those reasons. They helped form the Council on Religion and Homosexuality. So they started the conversation. Glide Memorial started the conversation on homosexuality and religion, especially within the Bay Area.
Wow, that's huge though. That's like the biggest stepping stone.
Okay, Reverend Cecil Williams came on board in 1963.
What?
1963. Yes. Now, I don't know when the council was started, but you have to know that the conversation started long before the council did anyway. So the next thing Reverend Williams did is, and now I do know this much about Christianity, he removed the cross from inside the sanctuary at Glide. Now, speaking from a Buddhist perspective, and I can see where it might be different for a Christian, but from a Buddhist perspective, this immediately makes me feel more welcome.
I see.
So I don't know what the reasoning was behind that change, but is a cross required for a Christian to worship? Reverend Williams was one of the very first preachers to start performing same-sex marriages. And this is not with government approval. This is not with licensing. This is not anything. This is sincerely just a religious figure, an ordained religious figure standing up in front of you, giving you your God's permission to be in a holy matrimony, regardless of sex.
That's beautiful.
I think that's amazing. And I knew that happened, because we're from I'm from San Francisco. So I knew same-sex marriages occurred. We just didn't have the paperwork. That's all.
Exactly.
That was just no big deal. They were the first church to start accepting city subsidies for their programs. This led into sort of a debate between other churches in the city and where you draw the line between separation and state and church. And we talked about all of these social programs. I just don't see how any congregation, even with, and I this might be myth, I have no fact behind it, a $1 million donation from Oprah Winfrey, you're not going to pull these social programs off. You need to have the grants from the city. You need to do this work for the city. So getting subsidies is the right thing to do.
Agreed. That's a tough thing though. And I know that there's a lot of debate now. There's always been a lot of debate on how much tax relief and help that churches should get from cities. And it is interesting, was the Church of Scientology also getting these subsidies later?
Well, and again,
where do you draw the line?
We go back to the showed up at political rallies and brought numbers. And
interesting.
What was the exchange for that?
Yes, interesting. That is controversial. Okay, now that's the only thing on here that I would say is, for my heart anyway, is actually really controversial, is the whole...
And are we willing to do that little dance with the devil to get what we need to get for the people in our city?
I've never heard anything bad about Cecil Williams, though. You never hear stories about him driving around with 20 beautiful cars, or, maybe I'm wrong. I don't hear a lot about him in general. But
Reverend Cecil Williams had a natural afro. He wore Shadiki shirts. Yeah. He was like a wooden beads around the neck kind of guy. He was, people might know him from the movie with Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness.
That's right. Now, look, if you got some stories and you want to share it with us, bad, preferably good, we would love to see those in the comments, by the way.
I will share with you, I do have a Pursuit of Happiness story that the guy who plays the buckets turned upside down, the drums in the movie that he stops at, I believe down at the turnaround, the cable car turnaround. Yeah, it's a real guy who really plays drums down at, he used to. I
know exactly who you're talking about, Angela.
He lived right across the street from me.
Oh, yeah, totally. He had either it's him or it's his buddy, but I hear that.
He had a picture. He had a picture that I have a video of him. at one point he did a duo with another drummer down at the same spot. So he would do his plastic drums, and another guy would set up beside him with an actual drum set, and they would battle the drums.
Wish we
While
could do a whole busker episode.
We
but-
can when the scenery opens.
when things
We
get back to
absolutely-
normal. Yeah.
There is stories of buskers on the streets right now, though. There is a lone
Oh.
saxophone on Market Street.
I love the saxophone on Market Street.
There's a number of lone saxophones throughout the city.
The Michael Jackson guy. Gosh, he would dress and do the makeup like Michael Jackson. He would work for his money too, man. That guy would sweat out there.
Yeah.
Now
At Ross, at the corner
yeah,
of Market and
Ross.
Ford.
Yeah. Because I get off at Pal Bart.
If you'd like to, after the pandemic, if you'd like to stop and see Michael Jackson dancing his little heart out, stop at 4th and Market outside Ross.
Do you ever see the guy who dresses up like Thor? He looks like a Viking.
No, I've never seen Thor.
Our buddy Asher, who works in Haight-Ashbury, knew exactly who I was talking about.
Well,
Now-
see, I don't hang out down there, so sure.
So, no, the Reverend's retired, right? Like for a while. He's
Yeah. He retired in 1999.
So who's
And-
taking over kind of now?
It's been a number of people. Those are some really big shoes to fill. It's a big program to operate. I don't think that at this point Glide has any single person that does what Reverend Cecil Williams does. I
That's
think
a
that they're
charismatic thing.
Yeah, I think that there's a number of pastors that contribute to the Glide Memorial Church congregation, and also to the people that they give to in the Tenderloin, and who come to the Tenderloin have the gift of Glide. Sincerely, I'll tell you, the Glide is so great. On Thursdays, they make fried chicken. This is in their food line. All right.
What?
I have been in the food line. This is no joke. Free food. Fried chicken that is famous in the Tenderloin. It's famous. It was famous when Gavin Newsom was mayor. I don't know now with Mayor London Breed, but I have seen politicians in law.
Reverend Williams retired in the late 90s. Is that right?
He did retire. He retired in 1999. And as based on our conversation,
So who's who's Reverend Williams the second? Like, is there?
I don't think there is. I think that there's been a few people that have been in that position, and I think that ultimately, what Reverend Williams did might be more than what one person can do today. That their programs have grown to the point to where they might have multiple pastors that make multiple contributions, both on the pulpit and within their social organizations. I just want to add that I feel like Glide, with the pandemic and everything, and the amount of food that they have to feed each year, that they instantly made the changes they need to make. They made sure that everybody got fed, that they all got takeaway boxes that are compostable with compostable utensils, the whole thing. I mean, they still kept operating and giving the same way, and just quickly got right onto things.
It
and
never
the way it was
changed
gonna be.
with the pandemic and everything. The volunteerism.
No, you should probably stay tuned, because there's going to be suggestions for a playlist for you to watch, a video for you to watch, and an opportunity for you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you again, and you guys have a great day.
Bye.